As I stated before, I'm Tonya Glass, Fleet Vehicle Specialist with Department of Transportation at SRPMIC. And I wanted to share some of the goals that were cultivated with the management team and specifically Director Crownover from the Department of Transportation. It was about 3 years ago. He said, well, EVs, what are we doing? I'm like, what are we doing? So he tasked me to become the subject matter expert for the Department of Transportation in the community, to pursue educational endeavors and get the knowledge. While I was with the City of Phoenix, I did have the advantage of working with Gregory Duckett, who began their EV roadmap and process over at City of Phoenix. So I had some familiarity providing data for his scopes. But here we have the implementation of the EV program, the fleet management system, right sizing the fleet, training technicians. All of these things are happening simultaneously. It's not an easy feat to kind of herd the cats and have everyone row in the same direction. You can't really have one without the other. And so we because of the pandemic, people are conducting businesses differently. So we have a population of fleet that we aren't utilizing appropriately. So we have to kind of get rid of or auction off that fleet. So when we do the refresh program with the EVs, that we are utilizing them to the fullest. Technician training, the community has been great in providing training. We've sent some of our heavy and automotive technicians to specific trainings for Ford and other heavy equipment. We've developed partnerships with local entities like ZevX, who has provided a conversion for us. ZevX has offered to train our technicians in high voltage when they train their technicians. So it's these partnerships that help us move forward and make sure that we're fully equipped when the implementation is complete. The grants that can be cumbersome. We've thought outside of the box, and thankfully we have champions within the department who are also interested in EV in police, fire, schools, in public works that are also on the lookout. It's not one person that can do all this. It really does take a team. And so, you know, when we missed an opportunity on one grant because of a timing issue for electric school buses, the new administrator came in for Arizona, which I had never heard of before. And we are competing for that, and that closed yesterday. So fingers crossed. We had identified that, you know, we wanted EV opportunities or charging opportunities for our employees. We don't have any covered parking. And so we're looking at Beam right now. So Beam is basically a generator. It's not a charger. So we're kind of thinking outside the box and pursuing opportunities with FEMA, presenting that as a generator and not a charging opportunity, but it will have multiple functions. Definitely our emergency staff can use it in the field as portable and mobile. I talked to Karen, and I'm actually going out in I think a week or so to look how the City of Phoenix Water Department is using it for their needs. So to see, touch, and feel is very important in crafting the language and crafting the applications. And also with the grants, ask for the world. I mean, the EV, we don't know what 6 months is going to look like. So generally in our applications, we ask for training. We ask for multi-year maintenance, extended maintenance, some safeguards in the application process to make sure that we're covered. Training, additional training, outreach is very important, community outreach. Because you have to build the trust within the community and even within the government, that outreach is essential in moving forward in the program. In addition, we're in the design stages of building a new shop, and we're thinking that this has to be a 50-year shop. So the government said, make it a good one, because we're not looking at giving you another opportunity after this. So our director has been working very diligently with stakeholders to find a sustainable solution, a technical solution that will accommodate us for years to come, not just what we need right now as we expand in the community and staff-wise. So it's not really fair to talk about let's buy EV vehicles if you don't have a shop that can accommodate the technology, the technicians that are appropriately trained, a fleet management system that is a plug and play and can use APIs to draw in these different sources of information. So all of these things happen hand in hand. And so when Director Crownover said, let's do an EV program, I'm like, let's do it all, because we need all of this to move forward, not just one piece. So these are some of the things that we've done currently. We have a retrofit of a transit vehicle where we took a vehicle with 198, maybe 200 miles by the time they received a hold of it, and 12 years. To everyone's defense in this project, this pilot project, we did not give them a perfect specimen. We nicknamed this vehicle the Beast for a reason. There were issues and issues. I'm like, we're going to recycle something. Let's make it a true recycle situation. So ZevX has been great with the growing pains. We both have learned from each other. This was a pilot program. And from this pilot program, we're able to kind of escalate and acquire different relationships with individuals in the EV stratosphere. In fact, it was because of communications and going to conferences and having conversations and work groups that we were introduced to ZevX. I was actually in Pittsburgh when I met Jay, and he's like, well, we're in Gilbert. And so that facilitated the conversation. And then from this pilot program, we had a fleet assessment. Also, we began working with ICFS and ASU on some other projects. Oh, I see a raised hand.
It's
Yes,
me,
Karen.
it's Karen. So on this one, Tonya, so this small transit vehicle has been already converted to electric?
Yes, it has already been converted to electric. We are currently working with ZevX because as they move through their process, there's updates. So it's currently being updated.
So how are you charging this on a level 2? You know, I had to ask.
Well, because of some issues with the vendor, not ZevX, but with ChargePoint, we are using that bad boy over in the corner that we got from Amazon for $1,300, and it's working great.
But a level 2.
One's a level 2 and one's a level 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So and that ChargePoint one in the middle is the one that we're having difficulties with and currently.
And then can you tell us what the mileage or range of that small transit bus is? It like 100? Is it 150?
100 miles. 100 miles. When we were doing some runs over the summer, we noticed some diminishing mileage. So the wonderful thing about EVs is that it's a technician and a laptop. You can make all your changes. And so the technician came out and we did some tweaks and we did some work with the regenerative braking. Right now they have an update that the vehicle's in there for the onboard computer and a 5G resolution for ongoing reporting and data transfer. But we did have some problems with the initial 12 volt with the vehicle, but that was on our end because the wiring was so damaged and the ground was so damaged. So, you know, ZEV has gone above and beyond just converting. They've actually done some technical work with the vehicle, some additional work with the vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so in the effort to kind of draw some focus and interest into EV, because no one had really talked about it at a executive or high level, we acquired 2 vehicles for our motor pool. One's a Tesla and one is the Ford Mach-E. It was imperative that we had these vehicles in the fleet, specifically the Ford Mach-E, because we are a Ford shop. And because we needed to develop a process and procedure for the motor pool, driving protocol for our clients, and then for the Teslas specifically, we had to put a governing situation because it's pretty fast. So we had all staff drive, give feedback, and then we worked with our fire and police to come up with a emergency, you know, if you're driving the vehicle and something happens. So when our clients or our internal customers check out the vehicles, they receive a notification, and then there's notifications in the glove box about what to do in case of an accident. Currently working with Ford for a video in which once the client checks out the vehicle, they have to watch the video and have an acknowledgement so they know everything they're supposed to know and then move forward. That's also very important, is to have a relationship with your primary manufacturer. We're doing and hope to do some additional data sharing to make some improvements. They've been a great partner. And once we get a couple of hurdles taken care of, I look forward to working with them even more closely and optimizing, you know, the vehicles. I should have included it, but these vehicles that you see here look very different now. They look pretty spiffy. And I guess if you reach out to me, I'll show you now. They both have been wrapped. That transit vehicle, we called it lipstick on a pig. That thing is wrapped, it's suited, it's booted, it's got new interior, and it's ready to hit the road. It is on one of our primary runs that runs from our New River People Clinic to the Indian Hospital in Phoenix. So just have to make a couple of tweaks and it's ready and roaring to go. We currently have 2 Ford F-150s ordered, like everyone else in the world. We're waiting in line, but have been told that it should be coming shortly. And again, once those come into the fleet, then we'll have a ride and drive with individuals internally in our department and other departments to get feedback about what we can do and can't do. And then once we right size the fleet, we have these options, with the exception of Tesla. We'll have these options for them to kind of look over and see what they want to do. We also are looking at bringing in a hybrid vehicle for long distance motor pool usage. So we're also competing for the EV school buses, which I think are unique and very important because of the diesel situation that's happening. I don't know if many people know, but there's potentially a class action lawsuit because a lot of over-the-road truck drivers are receiving or getting unusual cancers from exposure to the diesel, which may also attribute to the autonomous truck pursuits that are happening now. We are also looking at the EV fire apparatus with E1, looking very closely to what the city of Mesa is doing in their build. And we will have representation to kind of observe their build to see if it's something that we will be interested in going forward. But with any of these purchases, it's important that these purchases are not made simply because they're cool, they're trendy, they're, we got to do EV. The car part, the vehicle part is absolutely the easiest part of transitioning to electrification. But we had to start somewhere so we can get the appropriate data and match it with the appropriate usages that we have within the community. Unlike Mesa, Tempe, or Phoenix, our footprint is very small. And so our utilization is kind of unique. So more so within our community, electrification makes sense for some of the usage because we're kind of compact within the valley and the services that our departments provide.
Tonya,
So,
we have a couple questions, it looks like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to bring them to your attention. Karen and Danae both have their hands up.
Go ahead,
So,
Danae. Go ahead, Danae.
All right. Apologies if I'm already jumping the gun, but I love that you have some different choices of EVs. Like most of us in our fleets, we're seeing kind of the same old, here's your Chevy Bolt and here's your Leafs. How did you guys get the Mach-E and the Tesla? Was that through any sort of non-conventional funding or was it just an easier sell?
It was the residual funding that we received for other things that we did, like at our River People clinic, to get LEEDS funding, they installed 15 or 16 chargers. And because of that activity and because of the solar activity, we received a rebate from SRP and ICF. So, when you roll in with a Mustang, people are going to look like, where'd you get this money? Well, it's free money. We got it from over here. And so within the community, we have a dealership, the Scottsdale Auto Show. So our assistant director said, with this supply chain issue, if we don't get something now, we're not going to get it. So literally he went to the dealership and picked it up for us so we can get the data, so we can become familiar with it. So our staff and technicians could have something to look at the codes, the software. And if you send someone to training and they don't have anything to keep up that knowledge when they get back, then was the training effective? Karen?
Yeah, thanks, Tonya. So in terms of that Tesla, I know that we at Phoenix are a little sensitive to purchasing Teslas, I believe, because of the optics of that. But when you folks purchased your Tesla, it seems like you didn't buy it specifically for the police for pursuit. It's just in general for the entire motor pool.
It is for the motor pool.
Okay.
The motor pool is not only to provide the services for the community, it is also branding. It really is branding. Unless you get someone's attention, can you really do anything? So negative optics is even good optics. And so, the question was when we got the Mach-E, well, why not Tesla? Well, let's get the Tesla and see the functionality and how that works. I'm very fortunate to have management staff and executive staff say, let's try, let's see. I know many of municipalities and government entities don't have that luxury.
Sure.
And so, that's another reason why I think these groups are very important, so we can exchange this information. So, maybe you have some tools for the buy-in for your group.
Okay. And let me dive a little deeper into your training. So when I look at your training, to me, there's two different tracks. There's training your technicians to work on vehicles, and there's also training for your employees to drive the EVs. So you've done both sets of trainings. And then
Right.
is there anything that you can share on any of those, like any of the paperwork or policy or standard operating procedure that could, that other municipalities might be able to tweak and use so we don't have to recreate the wheel?
Right. So The technician training is through Ford, and then the future training is through ZevX. So when ZevX onboards more technicians, they provide high voltage training. And so via discussions and working together, they're like, well, bring your guys over too, kill two birds with one stone.
Right.
What that does is that it allows our guys to troubleshoot. So we have a warranty with them, right? So it allows them to troubleshoot and be familiar with the technology and move forward before that warranty's up. Because once that warranty's up, we're on our own. This is a proprietary kind of situation, but it's a very valuable situation because we're able to use this vehicle. It's probably in my presentation further on, but since we're talking about it, we have two brand new transit vehicles that are in the production process. And because of supply chain issues, they're 2 years late. We're actually going to get the Chargers before the Proterra Chargers, way before we actually get the vehicle, right? So in the meantime, in between time, we have this conversion that operates very similar, but with a financial footprint that's minuscule compared to the brand new vehicle. And so we have drivers. ZevX came out and trained our drivers, right? Told them expectations. And that was the value of the pilot program. It was a more intimate relationship and the sharing of ideas and development. So we have drivers trained on this. So when we get the asset that is $200,000, $300,000, we have people who have already been through training and are very familiar with the regenerative braking, can do that anticipatory driving that's needed to operate a vehicle of this size. As far as our motor pool, once we get through some issues internally, we will be providing that documentation in conjunction with Ford. They've provided me some information to move forward, but because of our IT situation, there are firewalls that won't allow me to attach it and push it. It's just technical stuff. But what that does is, it makes sure and acknowledges that the motor pool driver is aware of the situation, they acknowledge it, but it also provides some additional training. So because of the clientele that we have, you have one person using the motor pool, you essentially have someone talking about EVs in the community, at home, at school, and within their department. So that's where it was essential to kind of have that escalated marketing and legal caveat about how to operate. But that's evolving too. Like I said, there's many working pieces to this, and now we're getting to the point where people are listening. We've been asked to do presentations. I've been asked to do presentations at tribal council. I've been asked to do presentations at district meetings. One of the things that when we do the application, not only do we ask for the training for our staff, we ask for the community outreach, and that's important too, because we can ask someone who's used to this and knows how to read a room, knows how to communicate at different levels with schools, with district meetings and stuff. I think differently. I see things differently than some other people, but professional community outreach will afford us the opportunity to kind of reach masses with appropriate literature, with speaking, activities for the schools, activities for our Workgroup. So I thought it was important to kind of incorporate that into it to make sure the accurate message and information was getting to the masses, rather than my idea of what I think a good time is. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I think Carl Cephas from the airport's got a question for you as well, and then we can move on.
Okay,
yes, ma'am. Didn't mean to interrupt the presentation. Real quick, for the Mach-E and the Tesla, Did the dealership do any of the, or the automaker do any of the modifications like the governor on the Tesla, or was it done in-house? And if it was done in-house, did that negate the warranty that came with the vehicle?
No, that the governing of the Tesla was done by Tesla.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
And any modification to the Mach-E?
No, but that's something we're going to address moving forward too. Ford has a Ford Pass solution. And the other great thing about Ford and their Ford Pass solution is that we don't have to have fuel cards or charge cards. The vehicle acts as the catalyst for the invoice. So it being part of the motor pool, our whoever drives the vehicle, they go to a charging station, Ford bills us. And we can see who, what, when, and where. I mean, aside from the fuel efficiency and sustainability of the EVs, the data collection is just ridiculous. It's remarkable, and it takes out a lot of steps, and it takes out a lot of human error. We can get reports about who, what, when, and where. The GPS is ridiculous. I don't know who else uses Ford, but Ford, as of 2020, all of their vehicles have GPS. So if you have a third-party GPS, you can transition out of that. It's tamper-proof. It doesn't drain your batteries. It's accurate, extremely accurate sometimes. And they can provide as much, if not more data than some of the third parties provide.
Thank you.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about this. I know working in government that some of this is a little difficult because it's prohibitive. But standing outside, driving the Mach-E, watching people look at it, provided a wonderful opportunity to have those one-on-one conversations and kind of stimulate what's going to happen in the future and get feedback from not only the community that we serve, but the departments. As we all know, you know, in Fleet, we serve an array of different customers that have an array of different responsibilities and have opportunities that we may or may not know. We have a police department that they have a gentleman in there that can write grants like nobody's business. And he's just wonderful at it. And like fire has their own grant people and they have their own focus and they go to their own conferences. So they receive information, but it's very important that you bring these groups together so you can share that information and support each other for the goal, the common goal. And it doesn't do any good that someone from fire goes to a conference and then all of a sudden, you know, we're trying to spec out a fire apparatus and we're like, what's this? You know, and that's happened. It's happened with some of the technology on the builds that we don't know, but fire knows. And so it's important to work with the different stakeholders, find your liaison or create liaisons in the different departments and, you know, try to connect and communicate pretty often. They have an ambulance that's coming out now where everything is done in ambulance, x-rays, everything. That's why this 5G is happening, because that information is transmitted via 5G to the hospital. So by the time the patient gets to the hospital, they could go right to surgery. That's what's coming. And so it's important to have these connections and communicate with different professionals. I went to CES for the first time last year, blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. They did have a lot of EV information, but they had a lot of information about drones. And they had information about drones and autonomous vehicles and medical and how all that kind of works together. And some things I hadn't even thought about. Going to a conference in California about a year ago, They had a group that had invested heavily in Teslas, to the point where they had bought 900 Teslas, and they had take-home vehicles, and some things I never thought about. The gentleman's like, well, we didn't think about this, but we don't know how our employees live. So they had retrofitted some charging facilities in the garage of people, and they moved next month. Or they didn't know how many people they actually lived in apartments that didn't have charging facilities. They didn't know how many people lived in condos or townhouses. So it's these types of communications with professionals that help you develop policies within your own group and spur conversations that you didn't know you needed to have. And then when you have, you need to create subject matter experts in the departments that you work with. So you have to have a champion. And we kind of talked, I had a meeting earlier today, and I said, IT, I need someone who's just invested in this as I am. So there's going to be some technology that's coming down the road that if I find a training or some information, is there someone I can share this with? Because I speak this language and IT's this language, but I need some assistance moving forward to make sure this is something that's appropriate, something we can maintain going forward. And so these are some takeaways. Be flexible, because absolutely no one's working on the same timeline you are. Never have, never will. And that's just government, right? So be flexible, be patient, and listen. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own goals or what we want to accomplish, we don't listen to the needs and wants of the other departments. Be clear in our communication, what we need to be successful in whatever pursuit, whether it be EVs or what. But our next, like I said before, the vehicles are the easy part. That's absolutely the easy part. It's the electrification of facilities. We are growing by leaps and bounds. Once we did the fleet analysis, we had to determine where these cars are today and where they will be in the next 5 years, because the refresh program that we kind of referenced in the fleet analysis is over 5 years. And the community in itself is looking very different year to year, with the new facilities that they're making, not only on the government side, but the enterprise side. And having the conversations on the enterprise side, with my experience with living planning and development, on the enterprise side, if we have apartment buildings, having those discussions, so financially we're not burdened with retrofitting commercial spaces or apartments or senior facilities or what, and then have conversations about how we can capture finances. Another thing that we're looking at and having discussions with internally is, okay, we have all these chargers, and do we want to have some open for public charging? And how do we want to expend those funds? And I was thinking that, whatever our cut is from the chargers, we should use that in electrifying our fleet going forward, to kind of offset some of the expense. Which would be the alternative funding sources, kind of thinking outside the box. Fingers crossed, the FEMA solution will work. Again, those beam arcs are generators of electricity. They're not chargers. So I think we could be successful in that. Embrace technology. I would look at drones right now in autonomous vehicles. I will tell you, throughout the city of Phoenix and throughout the country, they are planning drone landing pads for personal use vehicles. So it would be 1 or 2 people, check out a drone, fly, I don't know, to the airport back. In fact, I had a conversation with individuals at Boeing and say, wouldn't it be cool, to get a drone from the airport and go to Talking Stick Resort and fly over the mountains, you know, something like that. But that's still in development stages and you know, something to look forward to, but that's the future in planning. That is happening. They are saying that that will be happening within 5 years, the drones. So also with that funding source, I think I mentioned it in the other sustainability, there's companies like Boeing that get credits for donating or giving grant money to sustainability projects in the community because they can't at this point do sustainability projects within their own organization because they're planes, right? And we're not there yet with battery operated planes. Is coming soon. But you know, that conversation was rooted at the SRP event. And so again, it's very important that you participate in these things so you can find out what's happening. And go into groups and you know, have offshoots if possible to have these discussions. And strategic partnerships, you know, Billy, I've heard that Brian has presented here before, but Billy, he's been great in helping me identify identify future projects that we can receive rebates and help fund other projects. So I wanted to give them an opportunity after we have a question and answer to kind of share their experiences with Salt River Pima-Maricopa Indian community and how they can help other communities plan, navigate, and finance their projects. So that's it, folks. That's all, folks. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But here's my information. You can feel free to give me a call or send email is probably best at this time, but I'd be more than happy to kind of brainstorm any projects and see if there's some collaboration. I just found out by accident, you know, I'm working on a pilot or a project with ASU, Dr. Chen. And when I was looking at the proposal and the budget, I saw City of Phoenix is doing it too. So I didn't know that either. So yeah.
Great.
So are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, Tonya. Yeah, we'll open it up to questions. If you want to just raise your hand or turn off your turn on your audio, that would be great. And otherwise, so I have one question, Tonya. As a tribal community, do you have I know you have various programs for the tribes that coordinate. Are other tribes leveraging each other in order to maximize what they can get out of electric vehicles, purchasing, those kind of things?
Right now, it's silo, I would say. There has been discussion between the different communities about what's happening here. It was at a tribal council meeting that I was made aware that the Navajos have an electric school bus. And then after a while, I'll reach out to them and kind of get their feedback. But I've also been invited to speak at INDEC, which is a enterprise organization for tribal groups on the West Coast. So hopefully there we can have some dialogue and see if we can kind of bonus on some information. Alexis is in the group and we were working together before, but we have moved on to other things, other opportunities, but always welcome to work and share information.
Great, thank you. So any other questions for Tonya? If not,
okay, it looks like Brian has he wants to go up next. If there's no more questions, I'm still going to be available, but I will stop sharing my screen so Brian can share and he can provide additional information.
And it
Brian.
looks like, okay, and it looks like you need to add me to the participant. I can't share here. So
Oh, okay. Hold on. Just
What-
1 minute.
as you're doing that, I'll just kind of update the group here a little bit. But Tonya, you always do such a great job, and thank you for sharing what your community is doing. And she mentioned the rebates that SRP worked with SRPMIC with this past year. And yes, it reached almost 6 figures. And I guess they took some of that money and and bought an EV. So kudos to you, you all at SRPMIC taking those rebates to good use. So let's see if I can share here now. Okay, and let me know when that you guys can see that.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, thank you, Tonya, for the great work you do over at SRPMIC. Bill and I just wanted to go through a couple slides here today just to kind of let you guys know about what we're doing at SRP and opportunities for EV rebates and things like that. I think we already kind of know what the level of chargers. We talked about some of that stuff this morning, that this afternoon that Tonya spoke to. Level 1 and level 2, obviously the two biggest ones. The DC fast charging is now starting to come into the valley. And I'll let Billy kind of talk to that and some rebates that SRP offers for that. Here's some of the rebates that we continue to use this year. Our fiscal year starts May 1st. So we've added a few things this year, and Billy can kind of go into that. And then our rebates end the end of our fiscal year, which is April 30th next year.
Say, Brian, I'm not sure. Hey, Brian, if you're advancing your slides, just know that we aren't seeing any different slides yet.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's probably just grabbing the wrong screen.
It
Yeah,
looks like it.
You might just be in presenter mode.
All right, there. Can you see that now?
Nope, we have a black screen.
Goodness sakes. Yeah, I've got so many screens here opened up. So
We can see just a sliver now.
what is going on here? Let's see. I'm not very good at this either here. Let's see. I can't even stop it here.
And can you make me a presenter and maybe I can share my screen?
Sure. Let's.
It's Billy.
Okay. There you go.
All right. Let me see if
All
I
right,
can
Billy,
get on
you want to
there.
try it there? Go ahead.
See if you guys can see this screen here.
There.
Yep, that looks good.
Is that on the first slide or is that on like, is that
That's
up here?
a later slide.
Okay.
That's the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll just get to the punchline here. Before we jump into some of this, I mean, Tonya, I did have a question. I mean, so which car did you get? Did you get the Mach 3 or the Tesla? That's what I want to know. And I gotta say, it's
The
a joy.
Mach.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's a joy to work with Tonya and know her professionally and personally, and get to work with her on these is a real joy. So, and that was a very insightful presentation, Tonya. So thank you for that. And giving us a minute to talk through some of our program and offerings. I know many of you on the call, I don't know everybody. Just wanted to, Brian and I just kind of want to give you a little bit of an elevator speech for what SRP is doing, currently offering, and kind of where we're going. On this right side, this is our EV offering. We have some non-road electrification things that, you know, I know many of the cities that we've talked about. She mentions there are some other rebate opportunities besides just the EV. I won't go into those too much, but just to know, you know, if you have the forklifts or anything that's battery powered that can be operated by a fossil fuel, we can probably give a rebate. But on the EV side, you know, we did a fleet assessment with Tonya and their group. I want to say there was, I don't know, 800 or so vehicles that we looked at and came up with something. I can't remember the number right now, Tonya. But that's something we can do for our customers, and that's what, you know, I think a lot of people need help with. They want to know, they want to go electric. They just don't have that roadmap. And so what SRP is elected to do is kind of give the funds to give an electrification roadmap to you. And we're allowing, you know, customers to do the roadmap themselves. ICF will also offer to do the roadmap for you as well. So just however you want to do, there's a lot of flexibility. I just noticed I only show the $1,500 report for the level 2 charging. It's actually $4,000 for government, nonprofit, schools, and multifamily, not just the $1,500 here that's listed here. We also have the DC fast charger, which is $20,000 per port. So if you're in that government, nonprofit, schools, and multifamily, it's $20,000 for DC fast charger or $4,000 for level 2 chargers. But we just wanted to throw up a slide here and let you all know that, you know, we're happy to sit down and talk to you about your situation if we can help. We have some partners that we've assembled to make it easier for everyone. We have all the contacts for all the equipment makers. We have a whole list of installers. You're welcome to use whoever you want, but you know, we try to partner and come alongside you to kind of give you some resources. You make the final call, you do your own due diligence, but we're happy to play a small role in this electrification journey with you. So that's all I've got. I also have Casey Rapaki here with me. She's supporting the SRP team as well. And many of you know Casey. And Brian, anything else that we may have missed?
No, I think that covered it. Anything else on your guys' end there, Ann? Anything else we can do?
Well, any questions, I guess, for you? And there was one in the chat from Jared asking if he could the presentation be shared be PDF. So I don't know if there's select slides that you want to share with the group. We can certainly get those out to everybody.
Yeah, we're happy to. Maybe Ann, if I could send it to you, then
Sure.
you get it out to the team.
Yeah,
We'll send you a PDF copy. And I actually need to update this slide. I don't know what happened to those other two for the government, nonprofit, schools, but we'll update it and send it to Ann and get it out to you all.
Sure. And we have a couple of questions, it looks like, from Carl and Karen. So I'll let Carl go first.
Thank you. Real quick, great information. My question from the SRP side, as a utility provider, where do you see capacity? More and more industry, you know, would look at DC fast chargers, and you know, we're going to hit some capacity concerns, challenges. Where, as a utility provider, where do you see in 5 to 10 years? What needs to happen, or do we have enough capacity to move forward?
Brian,
you want to take that? You want?
Sure, I can take that a little bit, Bill, if you want to chime in. Obviously, we thank you, Carl, for those comments. You know, we are watching that very carefully, obviously, and we're looking to add some additional load. We're looking at some new solar farms to be put in the next several years and different things like that. Some of our coal plants are going to be coming offline the next 5 or 10 years, and so those are going to have to be replaced. So, you know, SRP is in a transition of just like every utility right these days. So we're watching that stuff very closely, and we'll have enough power for everybody in the valley as we move forward. So, Billy, you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I'll just say that, you know, as we get further down the road, I think you're going to see smarter devices, a little more technical advances being put in place to where, you know, there's capacity issues both on the software and that SRP can use to do some kind of two-way communications. There's demand response programs. We're coming out with flexible load management programs where we're going to encourage you not to charge between, say, 4 to 7 during the summer. You know, that's going to be the system peak. So we're going to be rolling out some things to kind of encourage the market not to hit our system peak. And so I think as we move forward, these devices are going to get smarter. We're going to have to be a little bit sharper, maybe on the front end and onboarding, particularly to set them up so that kind of set it up and forget it, to where even if they charge, you know, plug it in, it's not charging during that window, right? I mean, the software is smart enough to do that. So we're just going to have to be a little bit smarter about where we go and how we do it. But particularly these DC fast chargers, man, it's a lot of load. It doesn't take many of those to really jump on up there. The level 2 is not quite so bad, but man, the DC fast chargers, a lot of stuff. I'll just also point out that as soon as you want to do a project, I would strongly encourage you to get with, you know, the SRP team to kind of get you in the works. You know, we have supply chain issues just like everybody. And so to, you know, just like ordering a lightning, you don't get one tomorrow, right? I think everybody's found that out. Same thing with transformers, you don't get it tomorrow. So the sooner and earlier that you can get in on the planning process, we'd strongly encourage you to do so.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen. Then we'll go over to, I think there was one other, Jared had a question too.
Yeah. So I'm jotting down Tonya's taking rebate money and turning it into an electric vehicle. Because I'm thinking the city of Phoenix could, you know, buy with our rebate money from SRP, the EV program manager, a special EV for the
There
city.
you go.
I'm just joking, but anyway, so quick question, Billy. I noticed on your slide deck that we certainly at Phoenix are taking advantage of the fleet electrification $20,000 option, but I noticed in your other table you had an electrification report analysis. So I know that as we are walking down sites, and we always need some kind of a top level analysis done on our electrical capacity just for pre-budgeting opportunities. Is that what that 20, I think it was 20,000 on your slide, is that what that is to have somebody walk down with us?
Yeah, so we actually are developing and have kind of in a pilot mode of assisting kind of with a walkthrough of your facilities and kind of doing that. We don't have anything formal in place. You know, I think we've talked about it off and on. It's just a matter of getting the right people in place. We're looking at, you know, that may end up being an SRP function. You know, we're hopeful that we can get a dedicated EV person on that side of the fence. We don't have it in place. We're talking right now about FY24 that'll come out in May. I do think that will happen. I think that needs to happen because, you know, if you have multiple locations, you know, it's very easy that you could be working with 5, 6 different designers. That just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So that's what I think that's what's around the corner for you. And so I think that's going to be part of it. But the fleet assessment is kind of 1A, and then 1B is going to be, okay, where, you know, like Tonya mentioned, where are these vehicles? Where are they going to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
What kind of capacity do we have at that location? Or do we need to consider a new location? You know, and so those are all really, really good questions on where the rubber meets the road on this issue.
Great. Thank you for that.
Great. Jared, you have a question?
Yeah, hey everybody. So Brian and Billy, Brian, you and I have actually been emailing a little bit back and forth and discussing some things with Peoria. So as we end up moving, and Karen asked part of the question I was going to, so but more along the line of site surveys, we're currently looking at possibly green lighting a complete redo, spoken to some of the things that you were talking about, Tonya, and having to make sure that you have all the facilities available. We're about to completely redo our fleet building. But we're going to flip it on site, bring in completely new power, and leave the existing building, the entire electrical supply, open and ready for fleet charging. So that I need, you know, so looking at the timing, how soon, how early do you need to, of a lead time do you need to possibly look at for as we go through that demo process and set that up and to try and get that a lead time on that? And second, one more item, what's the limit on the amount of rebates that we can get for putting in chargers? Because we're already going down a path right now. We're split in our city. We have some stuff with APS and we have some things with SRP. So we've already going down a path with a certain charger, certain cloud service, looking at dynamic load management and things like that. So we don't want to continue that, but we want to know how much we can exhaust that program.
Billy, I'll go here quick, then you can go.
Sure.
Jared, thanks for that note. You know, the sizing and the load of the facility is probably the most critical, because obviously the lead time for transformers and wire and everything else is really tough for us right now. So the sooner we can get that information, the one lines, the drawings, things like that to us, we can sure work with you guys and make sure we're on the same page and have that equipment there for you. Billy, you want to talk about the rebates a little bit and the amount there? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just kind of add on there. It kind of depends on the load. You know,
Yeah.
if you don't need a transformer, hey, we're in good shape. If you need a transformer, that's another conversation. If you need a substation, that's a completely different conversation. So I
Right.
think it just kind of depends on the load and what you want to do and what's there. So I think we can jump into that. As far as the rebates goes, I mean, we're pretty quick to turn things around. We try and make it, you know, simple. I mean, I'd like to say we have one of the simplest programs around. I mean, really, it's you sign here and you send us the invoices, that kind of thing. It's not much more difficult than that. So the fleet assessment, you know, that's probably a 3-month turnaround, depending on you know, what kind of data you can give us. If the data is complete, we can turn it around pretty quick. If not, then, you know, we use some system averages, that sort of thing. But we're a small team, you know, Casey and I are, you know, pretty responsive to turn things around. And we're particularly sensitive to, you know, any of the municipalities or, you know, any of you on the call. So I like to think we're fairly responsive there.
Okay, thank you, Billy and Brian.
Hey, and one more comment, I guess I want to add on to that. You know, the SRP has so many different kinds of rebates, and reflect back to what Tonya talked about and how much the rebates they receive. But, you know, lighting, VFDs, anytime you're building a new building, new construction, anything that you can save KWH with, we can probably put you into a program and a rebate and some incentives for that. So if you're doing some new construction, whatever, just let me know in advance, and we can sure work with you guys. And many of you have already done that. So that's all I want to say about that, Ann.
Great, thank you. Looks like we have a couple of last minute questions. Tonya, your hand's up, and then Karen, and then I think we'll transition over to our community updates.
I just wanted to stress that, you know, as you pursue funding and grant opportunities, all money's not good money. And it's very important. It's very important that you have your grant people and your contract people on board, because what's happening a lot is that manufacturers are bundling, and so they're developing these partnerships with like charging companies and things of this nature. So you're like, wow, great, you know, I get a school bus and a charger, that's great, that's just what I need. But you have to read the fine print, because sometimes they have extended maintenance, or that they have exclusivity clauses, they have things that kind of hold you into a contract with them for extended amount of time. Or if they're different pilot programs, it's like they're more concentrated on their needs and not your goals. So it's very important to receive the funding, but it's very important that that funding is appropriate for your goals, your constituents, and the government.
That's a great point. Yeah, not all money is good money. I'll have to remember that one.
The gospel according to Tonya Glass.
I was going to say, yeah, because some are definitely have ties, and some are more work than others too. So you really have to pick and choose. Karen.
Hey, yeah, just one quick question. This is for you, Jared, City of Peoria. Can you share with us, just again, real short, you said you're getting ready to put a fleet charging system online. Is that networked, non-networked? You don't have to give us a lot of particulars if it's not public, but just,
No, that's
just
fine.
curious.
Right now we're going with, we're going to try out, especially specifically at my building, and we're doing it. We also have 280 kilowatts of solar on this building. We're putting in 3 networked Siemens VersaCharge Gen 3s, level 2 chargers. We're going to charge those at 48 amps. And this is an APS service area that we're doing this in. But we're putting those up right now and seeing if we can roll those across the city in a variety of locations. Looking at, I actually got on the horn. My supplier was able to get me a Zoom meeting with Siemens to make sure that the system is doing everything that I want it to do, to be able to group them all by location. The other thing I will say that I just had a meeting yesterday with our head building official, the ADA, the federal government is starting to roll out ADA guidelines for EV locations. So that was something that we had to do. And we got in front of a electronic whiteboard and basically penciled out everything we were going to do, because we're going to have to redo the spaces in order to leave at this station. We're going to have to leave two accessible charging stations. So that's another thing to be mindful of. But yeah, we're going to be putting 3 of those out. Be happy to share with the group to see what we have, what kind of, and the individual thing. I was tasked with going back to our budget department and being able, you know, every vehicle now currently has keys, and you kind of plug that into the fueling system down at our municipal operations center. But they still wanted a similar thing to be able to back charge departments for fuel, electricity as a fuel. So we'll be working through tagging these individually to RFID cards, and being able to swipe that initiating the charging session. And then being able to, like Billy talked about, being able to slide those hours. So even though the charging session is initiated, it doesn't actually start charging until we're past the peak, and being able to get there, and then being able to stick multiple chargers when you only have a certain amount of amperage to give, and be able to, as more are plugged in, it actually brings the whole group down. So you can set a maximum of 200 amps at that location, and then it could start ratcheting down once you start hitting 5, 6 chargers, and still being keeping the group by that dynamic load management, keeping it only at 200 amps of draw, no matter how many you put on hypothetically. So there's a couple of things, like I said, we're trying, and that's kind of where we're at with that and pushing that forward.
Great, thank you. Thank you. We'll tag you for a future meeting if you don't mind, to come and give us kind of a status update, progress, lessons learned for what you're working on. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm currently looking at the charger. It just arrived yesterday. It's sitting in my office. So
Oh, great.
got, yeah, 1 of 3. So we're going to push those out. We currently have, just an FYI, we are waiting for 2 more. We have hybrids in our fleet. We've had Priuses for a while. And we just got one of the Mavericks about 6 months ago. We have a Maverick hybrid. And then we did have a Ford EV Transit that we do have, that our sustainability group uses out of our water services department. And we also have 2 Lightnings on the way, which we're being told currently should be here by April. So.
Great. Wow. I was going to say that could be a topic in and of itself. So we'll definitely have to work you in in our upcoming schedule. So I know we're kind of getting close on time. We just have 7 minutes. So I would like to personally thank Tonya for presenting her information. And then, of course, Billy and Brian for sharing information on behalf of SRP and what they have available for communities. I'll try to get those slides from you so I can share those with everyone. And Tonya, thank you so much for your expertise. It's great. This is a work in progress, it sounds like. And yeah, so much to know. And so much to take into consideration. So thank you very much. Really appreciate your guidance. So, all right. So with that, we'll transition over to just a few minutes for community updates. And this is where you're welcome to share, current updates for your community, your EV efforts, any challenges, opportunities you might have that you want to share with the group. So it's kind of an open discussion, open forum. And yeah, so feel free to jump in. Nope. I was going to say, I know I see Dawn Covert with the Valley of the Sun Clean Cities Coalition. So I don't know, Dawn, if you have any updates on behalf of that coalition that you would like to mention to the group. I love putting you on the spot.
That's okay, Ann. Thank you for doing that. Actually, we do have some updates, not specifically for the EV fuel, but we do have some updates for the clean energy fuels of all fuel types and all applications. So we're working with West Smart EV at scale, which is really it's a grant that we received from Pacific Corps. And we're targeting outreach for education and workforce development. And we're been working with Arizona Public Service on that grant specifically. So we're making some progress there. We've also we started out with a Core West EV program, but it was rebranded to what we call Charge West. And now that's the Intermountain states of Utah, Idaho, all the way up to Montana. There's 7 of us there. So we're working on that effort to bring EV charging through rural communities and through state highways, not necessarily interstates. So, you know, we're trying to stay focused on all alternative fuels and all clean fuels, and also provide some support for all of the EV projects that have been coming our way. So I hope that kind of helps us out. This was a great presentation by Tonya, and it really focused on the grant application and some of the, I would call them pitfalls. You know, you get involved in the grant process, you really do need to look at that fine print. That was great advice, Tonya.
Great, thank you. And Don, yeah, I would invite everybody to participate in any upcoming meetings that you have for the Valley of the Sun Clean Cities Coalition.
Thank
Certainly,
you.
everybody is welcome to join those conversations as well. I find them very helpful.
Well, thanks, Ann. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm wondering, since we have some rural communities on the line, if there's anybody that wanted to give an update how things are going in your community. I know Apache Junction, Douglas. I don't know if
El Mirage. Yep.
Derek, any updates on your guys' end?
Yeah, I could share an update on. So we got our first vehicles on. That's pumped. We have a couple Ford Lightnings and E-Transits. One of our Ford Lightnings is actually on SEMA, because I guess Ford wanted to use it for the SEMA car show. So we'll get that one back. And then we have new electric car chargings at the library. Talking to the library manager there, it's very popular. So it's getting a lot of use. We're really happy about that. First one was at the park / police station. I think it was just kind of not in as good a spot. But yeah, overall, you know, we have our first vehicles and it's exciting. And I guess a question for the group, how are people handling on-call charging, like at home? Are people paying employees to charge them more at home, or are they only letting them charge at work? Or I don't know if anybody has any experience yet with on-call vehicles being taken home and charged.
Well, can I address that for a minute? For the take-home vehicles, it's important to assess the function of the person that's taking the vehicle home. We, at this point, are not encouraging or providing or rebating anyone who takes an electric vehicle home at this point. So the rollout of the take-home vehicle is based on their ability to charge that vehicle, how many miles they are from the facilities, and having them charge during the day or whenever is appropriate. Because there's still some growing pains, at least on our part, there's still some growing pains as far as how do you do that, you know? So we have potentially, for instance, I took the vehicle home, I plugged it in, I don't have a charger, I plugged it in the wall charger and blew a fuse. Well, no, I mean, you don't know how people, you don't know what's happening at, you know, the capacity or what they have at home. So as we, you know, move through the process, that'll be one of the criteria, is like, how far are you away, and can that vehicle be charged at an appropriate time at our facility rather than at home? And then as technology changes and the ability to changes and the vehicles change and the batteries change, then we'll revisit it. But providing a blanket all take-home vehicles as we move to EV at this time, that's not something we as an organization want to do.
Thank you, Tonya.
Great, that's helpful. All right. Well, unfortunately, we're at time. Karen and Danae, do you have any final comments before we close up the meeting?
No, again, just thanks to Tonya and for everyone for being here. Great discussion today. This is one of our better discussion meetings we've had in a while.
Yeah, and it looks like we will not be meeting in December. I know December is a tough meeting, month for meetings and vacations and everything. So we will reconvene in January. It looks like our regularly scheduled meeting date is the 10th of January. So I'll send out some information on that as well. So, all right. Well, great. Well, Tonya, thank you so much again for everything. Have a good Thanksgiving. Hard to believe it's already November. And if you have any questions or issues in the meantime that you want to pose to the group, feel free to go ahead and email that to me, and I'm happy to get it out to everybody for responses since we won't be meeting until January.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
And
All
I love
right.
hearing about everybody else's project. So if you want to go out to lunch or something like that, just give me a call and we'll talk about it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.